This is D'Lo Brown. You better recognize this. The only podcast I pay attention to is the Ministry of Wrestling. Believe that.
Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, it's 2/5 of them boys, so you know what that means. We're here. It's me, the one AJ Anthony Jordan.
And as always, BigTone in the zone.
Okay, guys, it's time for another episode of Superstar Spotlight. Now, if you've been following the Superstar Spotlight journey, you're going to hear a lot of what we said and a lot of what we've done. And one of those things is Ignite Wrestling. We went to Ignite Wrestling. No idea. It was our first indie show. And yes, Jackson was there, and he was one of the top guys the first guys that we chanted for at this show in their breakthrough battle royal that came out. Followed by this one guy who we saw win and then go on to win the title. And we heard the name, and it was Bring the Pain. And especially because WWE has cancelled it, when we talk about Here Comes the Pain and Bringing the Pain, this is the only pain that matters. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, reigning, defending, undisputed Ignite Wrestling Pro Champion, Adonis Payne.
Oh, I've got to bring the belt in off that introduction. What's that? How you doing, guys? All good?
All good,
man. All good.
How are you?
Yeah, really good. Really good. I've still got this on my shoulder, so keep him well.
Banging. Hey, trust me, and that makes the ministry very warm and very happy. We are overly gassed at it. And just before we kick anything off, just have to say the words. Thank you for giving us your time tonight and having us an interview with a champ. I think this is our first world heavyweight champ interview. So
yeah, it is.
Yeah, we're on it, man.
Tick in the box for me as well, because this is the first time I've been a heavyweight champ. So,
we're all in new territory.
Wicked. Right, so what we're going to do right now, Adonis, is we are about to switch it up and go into interview mode. Sorry, let's do this correctly. Yeah, we're in interview mode. The floor is yours. And as always, the first thing I want to ask anyone is what was your earliest memory of wrestling and how did you enter the game?
It was definitely WWE. I think it was Eddie and Lesnar, although we can't really say much about that name right now. From No Way Out. I think that was my first real memory of sort of a wrestling moment that I can kind of pinpoint watching and going, oh wow. And it was just that feel good moment of Eddie finally getting that win over Brock. I think he retained the belt. No, he won the belt there, didn't he? He retained it at Mania. Yeah. And just from that moment, I was invested. And then it just came down to whenever you can. I think it was Sky on Saturday mornings watching SmackDown, sort of 10 a.m. There was no recording back then, so it had to be sit through the adverts, just kick through it and watch. And it just became a routine. Before I'd go out and play football, it was watching the wrestling. So football and wrestling was really then from that moment my upbringing through, because I was only sort of like 5-6 years old at that point. So just from that moment onwards, it just took over my life, and I became a wrestling super fan from there. You know, I had all the figures, all the games on the PlayStation and Xbox whenever that came through, and was just proper living in a fantasy land of wanting to be a wrestler. And then I didn't really do anything about it until sort of my early 20s. Like, I wish I look at some of the guys that started on the scene that started at sort of 15, 16. I'm like, I wish I did that. I wish I did it that way.
Nah, you're doing well, man. You're doing very well. I mean, I must say, like, the name Adonis Payne, that is a cool name. But I heard it, that's what we was drawn to straight away, isn't it? Like, you know, not only your ability, but again, the name is very cool. How did you come up with it?
It came, so I always wanted to go down the Payne route, because I was not massive on the indie scene. I only really watched WWE, and nobody used the surname Payne. I was like, this will be cool. And then I got into the indies, and everybody uses the surname Payne. So it's quite frustrating now. But I was set on that surname when I started training. I was set on using Payne because, like you guys, you can sort of play on it, bring the pain, here comes the pain, all that sort of. I was thinking merch, T-shirts, hats, that works. I was like, I can use this. And then I see it's been done 10 times over now, and I'm like, no, never mind. But that'll still probably come out anyway. And I'd been to the gym, and this was when I was still very skinny, very underweight when I was training. I'd been to the gym at one point and I'd gone into my old workplace, and one of my colleagues literally, because I was feeling my arms going, oh, they're sore, just literally looked at me and went, all right, Adonis, chill out. And then I was like, that might work. That might just work. And from that minute, I was just sold on it and ran with that name. And at first it was very ironic because I was fully underweight. I was playing like this scrawny little heel. So the whole sort of Adonis thing was just kind of an ironic thing. Whereas now I've started putting on a bit of size and I've kind of got a bit cut up. I've now got to maintain that, which is again frustrating when it comes to wanting to have a few beers on a Friday night. But
well, it's worth it in the long run, though. And like, obviously, you're in tremendous shape. So like, let's go back to like the start of your journey of actually like becoming a wrestler. Yeah, like, what was your first steps?
So I wanted to become a wrestler sort of, I want to say 2016, 2017 was when I initially thought, I'm going to do this. And I had a scout around at local sort of academies, and the only place I could find was UBW. But they were in Hitchin at that point, training in a boxing gym just on mats. And I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And then a year had gone by and I'd not done it. And then I was playing Sunday league football at that point, got fed up with that, finished up with football. And I then was saying to one of my work colleagues, do you know what? I'm going to do it. I've got to do it now. And he was a real big factor in as to why I ended up pursuing it. Because he went, I'll hold you to it. Search up that place, message them, and then go and book in, actually take advantage of this. Because I think he's only like 4 or 5 years older than me, but he was giving it the old excuse of like, we both love wrestling. I'm too old. I've got a kid. You got to go and do it for us. And playing sort of that peer pressure route, which I'll love and respect him for till, you know, for the whole of my career, because without him, I wouldn't be doing it now. And I just decided to find an academy. The one that popped up again was UBW. This time it was Stevenage based, if I'm right. No, it was Henlow at a community hall on a Sunday. And they had a proper ring set up. And I just booked in about 3 or 4 one-to-ones. And after the first one-to-one, I was hooked. I took a bump on a crash mat. I was like, this is okay. This is easy. This ain't going to suck. Managed to get a few strikes down, ran the ropes. I was like, right, now I just want more. I want to be able to start piecing things together. And then then I think it was on my second session, took a bump on the mat. And I was like, maybe not. Maybe this isn't as fun as I thought. But I stuck with it. I got through it. And I just got invested. I'm very much an all or nothing kind of person. And I just wanted to throw my all into it. So I was then booking one-to-ones, doing the group sessions every single Sunday. I was there. I'd moved my work shifts around. So I think I was working like 3 a.m. until 8, 9 a.m. just so I could drive over and make these sessions. So it was a grind, but it was one that was fully worth it.
Oh yeah.
Well, look, it is. Look, you're holding gold. Like you're a current heavyweight champ, so it's proven its point. But we're talking about. So you've gone into your training, the career's picked up. You're now getting booked. The global one has kicked in right at the peak, at the start of your career. COVID kicked in, and now you've got to take a break. How did
that was it? I think I started training April 2019. And then I'd made a few academy shows at the back end of 2019, but I managed to get a debut, which was UBW's WrestleMania show. It was like their biggest show of the year. Like they'd managed to pick me out of the academy to have sort of the opening match against Sunset Skip, Ignite's MC. He was the guy that I had my first singles match against on an academy show, and then my first singles match against on a main show. And I think we did about 6 or 7 minutes in front of 180 people. I was really invested. I'd been told from the promoter, you're doing really well. We want to send you on this big push now. You're going to be our next heel that's going to come through, arrogant little, basically come through and just basically take on all of our former champions and do a run that way. Made that debut after the hard work I'd put in. And then, like you say, I think it was a week later, the pandemic hit, all shows cancelled going forwards. And I'm sat at home going, what do I do now? It's literally back to square one. So it was hard. It was a hard 18 months, but, I spent that time watching a lot of wrestling. The network was around. So I was watching a load of wrestling. I was watching a load of just movies and TV shows. And I'd made a decision at that point. I was going to go all in on the Adonis and Greek side of the gimmick, so that by the time post-COVID rolled around, I'd be ready. Turns out I wasn't ready at that point. It's only really been sort of the last year and a half where I actually feel like I've been a wrestler. But yeah, that 18-month period was a real kick in the gut, because it was like I just got started. I was just ready to start progressing through. And yeah, it was just back to the drawing board from there. It's like, is the promoter going to forget about me? Is, are there going to be any new people coming through that's going to take my spot? Am I still going to get given this massive push? What's next, kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. And I understand, like, your first match back, though, that was with CJ Carter, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a ridiculous match that I still don't know why Paul Ash, my trainer and promoter, again, is just an unbelievable person. I don't know why he put me in there. It was really much a sink or swim kind of match. I was at my brother's wedding. It was the Friday. He was getting married on the Saturday, and I was sat around the table on the Friday night having a meal, and I get a message from him going, "Are you free in September for when we come back from COVID, the first show back?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Cool. I want you to do a run-in on CJ, help Truman Roswell beat CJ in the match, and then we're going to have Charles Crowley's big return back to UBW. He's going to lay you and Truman Roswell out, and we're going to set up a tag match for October." And I'm reading it going, has he sent this to the right person? Like, there's no way this is me doing this. Surely it's got to be like Tommy Kyle or Memes or one of the big dogs that were at UBW at the time. I was like, there's no way this is meant for me. I was like, are you sure? I think I asked him about 4 or 5 times if he's sure that he wants me to do this. And if he thinks I'm ready, he was like, yep, you're doing it. Don't say no, sign up. And I did. And it was just surreal. We got to that first show back in Biggleswade. I think, again, it was quite a decent crowd. And the first segment on the show is a promo segment between Truman and CJ. And these are 2 guys that I looked up to even before COVID, because they were running the sort of main events and big spots on the shows that I was just going and helping out at as an academy graduate. And I was like, now I'm going to be doing it with them. Yeah. And there wasn't too much time to train up until that point because of the pandemic. So I was like, am I even going to be ready? And I'd gone in and I'd laced CJ with this massive forearm to the back of the head, stuck him down and just started stomping a mud hole in him. And just that rush of adrenaline on that first show back, I was literally like, have I hurt him? Have I hit him too hard? Did I rush him too quick? Like, is he going to beat me up out the back for this? What's going to happen next? And he was absolutely fine with it. But it was just
what's crazy to me, though, it's like a sort of a full circle moment, isn't it? Yeah,
massively.
Like your career resurgence, yeah, like started with CJ, and like we go all the way now to you're his champion, man. Yeah, how does that feel for you?
It's crazy, mainly because CJ's somebody I've always wanted to impress, because on that show, when I did the interference spot, I came out a little bit too early. So it cut a lot of his comeback. And he rightfully basically gave me that telling out the back of just going, you came out way too early. This is why it doesn't make sense. It's my fault. I should have actually sat down and spoke with you a bit more. But he didn't realize at that point that I'd only had 1 match. He thought that I'd done a bit more than that. So when we got to October and we'd done the tag match and it went really, really well, way better than I could have thought. There was a few bits that I'm not happy about, obviously. I still get that now. I'm way too hard on myself sometimes, I think a lot of my mates would say. But we did the match, got out the back, and I was speaking to Truman Roswell, and he was going, mate, for a second match, you should be well proud of that. You really stood up with us out there. It was really good. And CJ overheard it and just stopped me and went, wait, you've only had 2? That was your second. And he was just in sheer disbelief from it. And because of that sort of, not chewing's the wrong word, but because of that sort of mistake I made on that September show, from that minute, I was like, I need to prove to this guy that I'm actually decent and that I can actually do this. So I've pretty much spent my whole career up until that September show at Ignite, where I was booked, trying to get his attention, because obviously he suffered the back injury and retired, and we were supposed to work a singles match afterwards, and that never happened. And I was like, how is he going to know that I'm doing well? When he books me at Ignite, I'll know I'm doing well. And I saw him sporadically, and he was like, he gave me a little bit of pointers and never actually let on. And I was always like, I don't know if he likes me yet or if he thinks I'm good or not. What have I got to do? And then, yeah, eventually when I got the booking from him, at the time, I was like, cool, this is enough. This is my chance now. I can prove to him I'm good enough. And yeah, 2 months later, he put the belt on me, and I was like, okay, I think he might like me.
I got goosebumps hearing that, man. That
That
is
is
such a
mad.
nice special story.
That's wicked. But so, I mean, we're gonna get to Ignite and that in a bit. But like, just listening to like this whole thing of how you were booked in and the program that was booked for you at UBW, as well as like CJ, like you've seen the interviews out there saying that you weren't even prepared for the idea of being the champ. You didn't know it was coming. Looking like just taking those 2 points, and I appreciate you saying you're hard on yourself, so you never really believe it. But has anyone said to you that you've got like a natural talent for this? Because it sounds like it to me that from your first match that people are willing to put you into such big programs for your second. Is that something that you've heard along the way?
So I had a Rumble appearance before that first match pre-COVID, and it was they plucked a few guys out of square one, and I was one of them. And it was basically somebody from the main roster came to one of the academy shows and saw me. And now these academy shows were in front of sort of 10, 15 people, and it was normally all friends and family, free entry. So it didn't really class for me as a proper show. I didn't take it as sort of like, okay, that's going on my list of matches I've done. It was still sort of like almost a behind the scenes kind of match. And he came down and saw it, and I was just being an arrogant kind of heel, as you do, talking to the crowd, telling them to shut up, all of this. And he said to Paul Ash, the promoter, you want to take a look at this guy? So I got put in this Rumble, and I got a 4-minute spot. I'd come in, I'd run a shine on people, I get thrown out. And instead of running the shine on everybody, I hit a double drop kick on 2 of them from the top rope, and then just cut a 1-minute-long promo walking around the ring, just telling everybody how this is my Rumble. I'm going to win it. I'm the best thing coming out of square one, and soon enough you'll see me with a belt because I'm going to win this Rumble. And then I get pieced and thrown out immediately. So from that minute, the guy went, you took your moment. And I like that. I like the way that I cut a promo instead of hitting a load of moves, because I think it's easy to go in there and just cut a load of moves. But I've always been more comfortable being arrogant and talking shit, really, rather than doing the wrestling. For me, you get 2 sides of wrestling, I find. You get the people that come in and are natural with their ability, natural wrestlers, and can wrestle really well, but sort of hide away from the character side of things and let the wrestling do the talking. Or you get the other side of it where people are so happy to just go out there and talk and really get the investment from the audience that way. And then that covers up their lack of wrestling ability. I'm not saying that people don't have a wrestling ability. Everybody's got to have a certain standard to get on a show. But instead of being able to do 450s and sort of all your cool technical moves that people want to see in a crowd, I just came out there and talked instead. And that, because there was no way that I was going to be the best wrestler in that Rumble. You know, you had, from the top of my head, you had guys like Truman Roswell in there, Carl Kingsley in there, Hustle Malone in there. These are all people that are way better than me at that point. I was green as grass. You know, there was no way I was going in there and being the best wrestler in that Rumble. So why should I put my 5 minutes into trying to be the best wrestler when I could just go out there and make sure people remember me by being the guy that spoke a load of shit and got thrown out? So
I like that.
That was the way I looked at it, and the promoter really liked that aspect because he's a very big character guy. You'll see it through UBW. A lot of people that have come out of UBW have all got big personalities, like Tommy Kyle, Truman Roswell, Charles Crowley, Stevie Turner. They're all big personalities with big characters. And that's, you know, he's got some hand in that because that's his outlook on wrestling, is to be larger than life and let your character work as well as your wrestling do the talking, rather than just being a wrestler. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes you look at some wrestlers and they've got it all and they don't need a massive gimmick to do it. But I think having a big, larger than life gimmick hides, like I said, it just hides that sort of underbelly of not having as good a wrestling ability as, like, I mean, you guys were at Rev Pro yesterday, so you've seen the best of the best. So if I'm not going to be a Will Ospreay, I'm going to do something to cover up the fact that I'm not Will Ospreay, but it will still make me stand out.
Well, you see, the thing is, you say that though. I mean, like, we've been to a lot of these shows now, and I don't think like the gap is like as far as you might think. Towards the fans, yeah, of what we're witnessing you do and them do. I mean, it sounds like to me you already had like a great knowledge and understanding of the business anyway, and that's why you made that decision to just bring it out there and, like, you know, do that little promo with your 5 minutes instead of trying to do a little moves that you might have nailed, you might have not, man. You know, it's all about what's up here, isn't it?
I think it was one of those ones where I've always been quite, like, in terms of heel work especially, I'm so happy to talk and just like tell people to shut up, because it's so easy to get yourself booed. It's so hard to get yourself cheered, because that's why you've got the old typical phrase of people run out of the curtain as a babyface and just go, come on. Like, how do you interact with people to get them to cheer you? It's so difficult to be liked, so easy to be hated. I've just got to look at somebody, call them an idiot, call a little 5-year-old an idiot, and they're booing you straight away. It's like that. It's a tick in the box. So that was my mentality, is how am I going to get the most hate possible so I get a decent reaction that the promoter's going to want to rebook me? And it was how can I get myself back? How can I do this more? Because 5 minutes in a Rumble is nothing. And I think I'm probably being generous by saying 5 minutes, but it's nothing. I wanted that second booking to give me an opportunity, which is then I ended up earning that and getting that singles match. And obviously, like we said, the pandemic hit and that was a shame, but it clearly did enough to keep me in that memory to be put in that big spot in that big match when we came back, which I'm so grateful for it. I have a massive case of imposter syndrome, so I will sit back and sit here and go, I don't know what I did to deserve being there. But that's just the way I am. And I think that almost drives me to keep doing better anyway. So if in the eyes of other people, I'm doing really well and I deserve those spots, cool. But for me, I can do more. And that's the mentality that I've always had and probably will keep going with.
No, I think that's always the right approach when it comes to performing. It's like, if you ever take it for granted, I think that's the day that you get too comfortable and people slip on it. The fact that you're just always that bit of nerve, it means it proves your passion for the game and your respect for it. And I think it shows in the ring. Loved everything you've done so far and what I've seen. So just going that little bit further now, we're talking about, so I'll let you continue.
No, go on. I was just going to say, I really appreciate
that moment. Thank you. So you've had that moment, like you've had the moment, you've tagged up, and then this is coming out. So did you do a lot before the Odyssey became a thing? Was there more of a singles run after what was meant to happen with CJ, or is this where you partnered up straight away with Artemis? Like, tell us that journey of how the Odyssey came about.
So the journey kind of coincided together, because I ended up going on and winning the Square One Championship, which was the Academy Championship at the time. But before that, I ended up doing a couple of number one contenders matches, one in the October and then one in the December, which the December Square One show was when we moved to a proper venue and it kind of classes as a proper show. I think we got 80 to 100 people in there, which for an Academy show at the time was nuts. And Artemis was making her debut facing Tommy Kyle on that show. Tommy Kyle, who trained her and had a massive hand in what I do and what I've become now. We'll talk about him a bit later because he's upset me, but we'll get onto that. But Artemis was in the locker room. Now, Adonis and Artemis, two Greek mythological names. Yeah. And we were just in the locker room, and I knew Artemis from a few shows before she started training and coming and helping out. So I'd already got a good rapport with her. Now, she was about 5 minutes from going out of the curtain. And you'd think before your debut, you'd be nervous, stressing, losing your mind, going, how am I going to remember all of this? She was completely chill to the point where I'm stressing about my main event in like an hour and a half time. And she's turned around to me and gone, Adonis, Artemis, we should do something here. There's a tag team here. And I went, yeah, there is. And from there, it was like, that was the seeds planted. That was where it was born. There we go. And that was where we sort of kind of initiated the first sort of conversation. So I go on to January, win the Square One Championship at the Rumble, at this same, our sort of annual Rumble, Floor is Lava. I win it in one of the matches. And then inside the Rumble later on that night, we sort of did our first few tag moves together. And then in the February, we aligned as a team, joined the meme team. She was a lot of the time doing her own thing. We were on two solos, but sort of in the same faction. And then I dropped the Square One belt in the July. We make our tag team debut in the July of 2022, which went exceptionally well. But I think the only reason why it went exceptionally well is because we spent 7 months watching each other. We were constantly at ringside for each other's matches. And whether we were at another promotion or at UBW, I watched every single one of her matches live there. I knew exactly what moveset she did. She knew what mine was. We knew how we were going to make it work together. We knew what moves we could combine. We knew what moves to keep separate. And yeah, I would like to say that before we even had our first tag match, I knew her like the back of my hand. And that massively helped. I don't think we would have had as good a start to our tag career had we have gone in the December, let's do a tag team. January, we do a tag match. I think we would have struggled so much more, and maybe the confidence would have been knocked and we would have gone, look, this tag stuff's not for us. We gave it a go. So I really think that timeline was so important to just sit at ringside, maybe get involved every now and then, but most of the time I was just watching her do her moves, working with whoever it was at the time. She was doing the same with me. And even just sort of chatting out the back and like being in the car and on the road together, just that rapport built. So when we faced West Side Heat in that first tag match in the July, it came off so well, better than I ever thought it would have done in terms of like just the moves, the way that we were moving together, the timing of things. It just went really, really well. And tag wrestling is so difficult because there's so many moving parts, so many different cues you got to remember. It's a lot easier on your cardio because you get more rest, but you've also got to be paying attention mentally at all points.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's mad. Do you know what's really funny about you mentioning that? Our first Ignite show, we were in a row, and we were just one short of, because there was 6 of us, but there was 5 in a row we had, and then one person had to sit in front. And what's really funny is we went, oh, where's that person gone? And like, oh, apparently she's a wrestler, but she's gone. Like, we had no idea. And now I'm very sure in the back of my mind, it was actually Artemis. So like, to hear that you guys are doing that, it's not even a lie, because we were like, Leon, you mean to tell me you were sitting next to a wrestler and you didn't say nothing?
Yeah, I think she ended up moving around the back, sitting with my family on that show, because that was the November show, wasn't it? Your first one? Yeah. She moved around the other side, but she came up outstairs out the back in the interval and stuff. So she was just sort of like dotted in and around. But again, that show, she was initially only meant to stay for the first half. She was going to come and watch us lot because Jackson probably would have said it, but Jackson Hart, Josh Spicer, Harrison Leon and myself, we all trained together. So that match was so sort of wholesome for us four. And, you know, Danny I've worked with him 3 times now, and he is so good. And so for him to be added into that match was just incredible as well, because I knew him already and we'd worked together on, like I said, 2 occasions already. And I was a big fan of his just because both of the matches we'd done had gone really well. So I was saying to the other boys, this will be fine. He'll be fine. This is going to be great. He's so good. We're fine. And it did go really well. But she was only going to stay for the first half just to come and support us lot, because the sort of 5 of us are really close together. And then as soon as, obviously, I got told what I was doing at the end of the show, I straight away texted her and went, can you stay? I'm panicking right now.
So she consoled you. That's great.
So she came up in the interval and just went, you're fine. You'll be fine. Like, proud of you, and then went back down.
That's a great moment for us to actually segue into what we're talking about next, isn't it? Like, I seen a very brilliant picture on the internet, of you holding multiple gold belts, Look at that right there. That's a thing of beauty. So, like, let's start with Ignite, because obviously that's probably your biggest moment, of
without
holding gold. And then let's go through the gold and how each time it felt winning them, what it meant for you.
So do you want to start with the Ignite one, or do you want to work in sort of timeline order?
Actually, you know what? Timeline order. That's
timeline order. So the one that's not in that picture that I've held before was the Square One title that I've spoke about. It's the one that Harrison Leon's got now. And that one was massively special because that one's your first. You never forget your first belt. And to win that was really cool because it was against a guy called Jimbo who I'd started my training with, and I got to work with some really, really, really talented people in that. Smashing Mike being one of them was my first defense for that Square One belt, which when I was brand new was so cool. And we recently did another one at UBW, and that was a nice full circle moment to see how far we've both come, and like especially me, because he was already top class back then. And like I said, you never forget your first. And then the second one was the UBW tag belts. So I dropped in the July, I dropped the Square One Championship. The end of July, we made our tag debut. And then in the October of 22, we ended up winning the tag team championships off West Side Heat. James Toner got injured, so we ended up doing it in a 2-on-1 handicap scenario. And we've still gotten to this day, 500 days as of tomorrow, I think it is. So I don't know how we were told when we won them, yeah, this will be a stopgap run. You guys are going to run for a couple months with them, and then we'll transition them when we find another tag team. And in the end, we just worked really well because, like I said, we only debuted in the July, so we weren't expected to be a great tag team at that point because that was 3 months of being a tag team. We'd won the tag gold because at the time we were the only option for UBW. We're not anymore. There's a lot of good tag teams coming through UBW, and especially across the scene that they can bring in. But that one was really special because that was a moment I got to share with Artemis. And again, it's cliche, but for me, it was really nice to win something and share it with a friend, and just for us to look at each other and go, "Has this actually happened?" And it's even more mental to think that happened so long ago, and I've still got that belt sat here. And we're still defending them against all these cool tag teams, and I'm just repping them all the time. I mean, I'm going to say they're all special, really, but the next one was, again, because it's not a home promotion, the United Tag Team Championships. And similar to what happened with Ignite, we weren't supposed to win those tag belts. There was the inaugural Tag Team Championships. We were doing a tournament, and we were in a triple threat match with the 8-7 and Rex Armstrong and Harry Sefton. And the initial winners of that, I believe, were going to be Rex Armstrong and Harry Sefton. But on the day of, I turned up to the venue, saw the tag belts for the first time. They were brand spanking new. They were laid down on the table. And I looked at the promoter and I went, "Mike, they'd look good on me, wouldn't they? They'd look good on me, these." And he looked at me and went, "Oh, yeah, I've not told you. You're winning them." Now, I'm looking at him like, what? What do you mean we're winning them? Artemis is at Ignite. She's doing double duty at this point. So she's not even here to take this moment in. So I'm stood on my own going, what do you mean? So anyway, they wanted the idea of the good guys to chase the bad guys. They thought that would be a better story rather than having the bad guys chase the good guys, because we were going to win them down the line anyway. We'd already been told. In the end, Rex Armstrong ended up retiring, so they weren't the ones to take him off us, which was a shame because Rex was such a top guy. I don't know if you've seen much of his work, but he was an unbelievable worker, but just an all-round lovely person, so helpful, and just a guy you want to sit and have a beer with in the locker room. Like, you could just talk to him about anything. It'd help you out even if you'd met him on that first day. But yeah, so Mike tells us we're winning them. I text Artemis and go, "By the way, we're winning another set of tag belts. Don't panic." She checks her phone after the Ignite match, just goes, "What the hell?" Then realizes she's got to drive really quick to make it by the time after this show gets to Oxford. We've planned a match, or a structure of a match, because both Alexander Roth and Artemis were on that show, so they weren't there to plan. So the other four of us in the match ended up planning it and putting it all together. They just had to familiarize themselves. And yeah, she turns up and went, "Are you being serious? Are we actually winning them?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're winning them." So I think the reactions you see in the ring when we do win them are real sort of raw, visceral emotion. A lot of them. First thing I do is just grab her and give her a hug and just be like, "We've done this." And that one was such a cool moment because my parents came down to that show. They love United. If you've not been to United before, I'd recommend it. It's in Tap Social, which is a brewery with all home brewed beers, and it's sort of a real underground feel, real dark sort of room. Kind of dark, similar to the Ignite, but real closed in and intimate, and a bit more sort of gritty and raw. Like, there's not many kids there, so you'll see a bit more sort of violence to a certain degree, not sort of deathmatch hardcore style, but just a bit more violence, a bit more swearing, that sort of real adult kind of style. I would say like Lucha Underground, but it's nothing like Lucha Underground. But that kind of, sort of arena vibe.
Yeah.
No, we get you, and we're coming. Trust me.
Yeah, you should do. I don't know. The next one in March will be a good one. I think that's the Flip the Script one. I've got a few dates for him this year, so I can't remember which ones are which. But I think that's Flip the Script. That's got a great card on it. But yeah, that one was special because it was somebody else's promotion. It's not where we've been trained, and we became double tag champs. And all of a sudden, we've gone from the July debuting as a tag team to 3 months later winning one set of tag belts to then another 5 months after that becoming double champs. And we're just like, what is happening? We're so new. We're not even a year in and we're double tag champs. And then, I won the Phantomweight Championship, which is this one right here, from United again. They ended up making a debut in Reading for that one. And they ran a new show. And it was at a place called the Phantom Brewery, and they wanted to crown a Phantomweight champion. So, they held a little tournament. I got to face a guy called Arthur Scurro in the first round, who is an incredible wrestler and will go on to do great things, I'm sure. Again, another product of the UBW Academy and might have family links to me. That may or may not be true. So that was a real wholesome moment. And the other guys that came through and got to the final were Tate Mayfairs and Bullet. So, I'm swimming with the sharks again there. You're talking former WWE and the best heavyweight in the country without a doubt.
Yeah.
And that was a moment for me to then go and prove, I can hang with these guys and keep up with them. And I did. And again, I'm going to say it, always a special moment when you win a championship, but that one was to get a nice little rub from the pair of them afterwards and say, that was so easy to work with you and so enjoyable. That was really nice. And then, the big one of Ignite, which was surprise of the year. I debuted for him in September, won the breakout semi-final, got told that I was winning the breakout final, which I already thought was mental anyway. I'm like, why me? Why am I winning this? I know they had Nino Bryant win it the year before, who was a good guy, so maybe they wanted a bad guy. But I'm like, you've got Jackson in there, you got Danny in there. If you want a bad guy, like those two are just as good, if not better than me. What are you on about? That was the way my brain was working. But CJ had decided he wanted me to win it, so we go on and play it the way we did. Win that massive schmoz elimination fest of a match. And then I think it was about 5 minutes before I was meant to go out for that match. CJ wanted to tell me after, but Gene Money kind of broke the news a little bit before. So I'm stressing about this 5-man match that I've got to have, and I'm losing my mind in the locker room, absolutely losing my mind trying to remember different pieces. And I came out last, so I didn't even have that big of a deal. It was more the worry of like, right, I've got to go out and put on a good show and prove CJ right, that he's right to put me with his title, with the trophy even. So I'm losing my head, and Gene Money comes and taps me and goes, so what are we doing later, mate? I'm looking at him like, what do you mean? What? And his face just drops and he's like, oh. And CJ walked in at that moment and I look at CJ and I'm like, what is he going on about? And he just grabbed me and went, don't panic, go do your match, but you're cashing in later on. Off you go. So I'm then behind the curtain.
No pressure.
Like, how am I trying to take in this info of what I've just been told whilst also like, don't forget anything, go and do your job, go and do everything you've asked. And I'm losing my head. And he's telling me, he's like, don't worry about it. You're fine. Don't worry about it. It's just a prop. It's just this. It's just that. And I'm like, well, it's not, is it? And he was only saying those things just to chill me out a bit, but it wasn't working. I was still losing my head. And I think I go out, do the match, win the trophy, cut a promo, get out the back. And I spend the second half of the show grabbing him going, are you sure? Are you certain you want me to do this? Because once it happens, you have to stick by it. What are we doing here? And I think I asked him about 10 times to the point where he just went, yes, if you don't go in and cash in, somebody else will be doing it. So someone has to, either it's you or someone else. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll go do it. And then, end of the show, sneak in, kick Gene Money in the face and walk away with the Ignite Championship, which again was a surprise for my family that were in attendance. So the second time I've surprised them with a championship win. I mean, it was a surprise to me, obviously, but just really cool, really cool moment, because like I said, that kind of gave me I can't think of the right word. That made me feel valued to a point where, okay, I can do this and I can be the main guy, because you have all those doubts when you're coming through. Am I just a tag guy? Am I just sort of the guy that's going to come out, open the show? Am I just going to sit sort of in the middle? Can I get to that top end level? And I didn't know if it was ever going to come, and if I was ever going to be seen as that sort of guy that can carry a company and be sort of on every single poster in main events. Because I'd done main events as a tag team, but up until that last Ignite show, I'd never done a main event on my own. So that one against Jay Joshua was my first Ignite main event, was my first solo main event even. And that it was one of those ones where it was sort of that validation that I kind of needed for somebody that suffers with this sort of imposter syndrome that I do. I kind of sat there and was like, and still it's surreal to me. I still look at that championship daily and go, why do I have this? But, you know, that to get that faith this early on, sort of 2 years into my career at that point, because I don't really classify the pre-COVID stuff because just numbers sound better, because it's hard to just about 18 months, but sort of that 2 year mark into the career, or 2.5 years, it's just surreal. I don't know what I did to deserve it or what work I did, but I'm just glad, I'm humbled, I'm honored, all the sort of.
No, you deserve it. Like we was in attendance, like we couldn't see any nerves or anything. You come out, you won us over. Like again, Adonis, we did not know you. And you were the bad guy too. Yeah, we decided from your work we were gonna cheer for you.
Yeah, I tried shutting you up at the last show. It didn't work, did it? It just got louder. I was
like you know, it's all about entertainment, and again, we were really entertained. So I know we're supposed to, you know, faces and heels and everything, but sometimes you just gotta cheer for who you like. Yeah, and we liked what you was doing, and I gotta imagine though, like the validation, as you said, yeah, like it must have again been a full circle moment for you, from saying that, oh, you looked up to CJ to try and get his approval and everything, to him actually, you know, saying you've got it.
Yeah, I think the initial booking from him was enough. You know, I think he told me like the October before I was booked, because I was still wearing sort of like Venom Amazon sort of tights. He was like, once you get proper gear and look professional, I'll bring you in. And the second I posted a picture in proper gear, he sent me a text and went, here's a date, put it in your diary. I want you on Ignite. So he stuck to his word then. And I was like, okay, that was enough. The booking was enough of that validation in terms of, okay, he likes me enough to put me on his show. Now I'm going to go and prove that he can bring me back. And the surprise I felt going into the venue on the day, being told that I'm going to win the breakout tournament again, was massive for me, because I'm like, well, I'm going to be in a storyline because I've got the trophy. So I'm going to have some form of story there. There's going to be, whether I go on and sort of play with a champion for a few shows and then lose the cash-in moment, because I think Nino lost the cash-in moment. So they'd set it up nice early doors that, you know, it's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee like the Money in the Bank sort of become, where if you've got it, you're going to win. So I was sort of on that sort of knife edge of like, okay, well, I know I'm going to be involved in some form because I've got this. I did not believe in any way, shape or form that I was going to be walking out that day with that belt. I didn't think I was going to be walking out with a belt in a couple of the months afterwards, or in a couple of the shows afterwards. And, you know, it was just massively validating. It was one of those ones where I'm like, I'm so glad that it was CJ that gave me my first main championship, because like you say, it is that whole full circle moment. And don't get me wrong, it would have been lovely to have a home promotion, but I think it just means a lot more because of the backstory that there is to it, that he was there from my first match back after COVID, when I was probably at the worst shape I'd been in, but I was still able to wrestle. And the fact that I'd proved him, you know, after 2 matches, I could hang sort of in the ring with him. And then he wanted to work with me in a singles match that we never ended up getting. He wanted to help me out, and he'd helped me out so much with just little bits of advice. He's probably helped me more than he thinks, just from me watching his matches. And yeah, so it's surreal. It's hard to find the words to sort of describe that feeling of. I just feel like I've proved to him that I am good enough after that first sort of show where I came out a little bit early. I'm still there, and I'm still trying to prove to him all the time. I came back off the main event against Jay Joshua, and he was like, "Mate, that was insane." And I'm like, "Really? You think so?"
Yeah,
I think
it
it was a bit better, but like I'm still trying to get there. And he's like, "No, it's perfect." So even now, even after I've got the belt, it's still that kind of game.
Do you know, talking about the attire and everything, where for CJ to book you, can I say, one of the things was seeing you run down at the breakout was one thing, but my God, was I in awe at the entrance that came for your first title defense for the solo, like the whole like the Greek god gear, like the Greek Spartan gear, the Spartan gear, the crowd and everything. I was like, this is an entrance, man. It felt it, man. It's got levels.
I got very lucky with that. I got very lucky that was able to come off. I didn't think I was going to be able to do that entrance until the April show that we got coming up full throttle. I thought, because I'd ordered this mask in January from a guy called The Face Forge on Instagram. He was the guy that did Spike Travail's new mask that he wears all the time. Absolutely sublime person. Just creates such good masks. And I'd asked him, if he could create a Spartan MF Doom mask with a crown on it, would that be possible? And he went, what, something like this? And got an AI generated image up straight away. And I went, yeah, exactly like that. Actually, like, let's do it. And he'd quoted me about 6 to 8 weeks initially. And yeah, there it is. But he'd quoted me 6 to 8 weeks to get that mask and crown made up, which when I ordered it at sort of start of January would have taken us to sort of March, sort of middle of February, March, which bearing in mind the Ignite show was on the 4th. It was going to be a tight squeeze, but long story short, he got excited at the prospect of making it and did it within about 3 weeks. So I'd got the mask and then I just needed the music, which again, I'd ordered from Hot Tag Media Works and I was just waiting on finalizing up and I managed to get finalized and ready. And then the armor was done by Camel Bags on Instagram. He does a load of different surfing bags. So if you're into your surfing, go hit him up. But he just altered my armor to make it easy strap to just slip off because it's got buckles on there initially. And it used to take me ages to come off. So it was a number of different things that probably shouldn't have been ready in time. I think the only thing I had ready was the armor. So I was like, well, I'm not just going to use the armor. If I'm going to bring it out, I want the whole look. So had it have not turned up, you would have heard the old music I had in November with just sort of either a jacket or nothing, come out normal main event. But the sort of stars aligned for me. And I was able to have this first defense as the sort of king side of the gimmick and just make it all work. And I was so nervous at the prospect of coming out. I was behind the curtain going, what if I go out there and everyone goes, look at the state of this tit? And I was there just losing my mind with all this worry and angst and like whether I'd get the routine right on my entrance that I wanted to, whether I'd look like an idiot. But straight away, as soon as I came through that curtain, I just felt people's eyes on me like, whoa. And I was like, okay, cool. Because it wasn't necessarily booze, but it wasn't silence either. It was sort of that kind of grumbled murmur of like, oh.
It was huge, man. It was huge. And what was really funny is we had both sides of the ramp where we were. Like, I'll play the video again just for a factor. Right?
Yeah, I got the pictures on. You can see you guys just either side.
You see that finger that came there from Den? That's the point I wanted to hit. That's really funny because there was this one kid in front of us actually who kind of pointed a finger and Den was like, yeah. And we found ourselves like, we're like, this is God level. He's on like a Roman Reigns level with this. We all just started putting our finger up to like acknowledge. And it was huge. It, like for and again, and I'm not knocking the indies when I say this. I'm not knocking Ignite when I say this. But it was something we've never, like, we've been to Money in the Bank. We've seen a Roman entrance. You know what I mean? But to see it on this level, it was like, this is production level. Like, and don't get me wrong, I've seen like CJ's interview, I've seen him come out of a coffin. I know this stuff can happen. Yeah. But it was like first hand seeing it and this close as well. I remember I was in awe. I mean, even now I'm looking up, like picturing it. Like, I'm like, that was amazing, man. you've got it. You've got an entrance there. Trust me.
I appreciate it, man. It was one of those things where I looked at CJ's old entrances. I looked at Charles Crowley and his entrances, Spike Trivet and his, and just the aura that they possess. I think the one that he did for Spike Trivet, for the match against Kid Lycos, where he won the mask off of him. That entrance I've watched about 10 times over because the aura he has with it, the fans just flipping him off all the way around, and it's just that red lighting and just the music, like it's that intense sort of horror style music that's just gripping you, and it just felt like a film. And from that, seeing that entrance, I was like, I want that. Why can I not have that? So I decided to come up with a way that I can try and recreate my own version. And I got a mask that was sort of styled to me, and I cottoned it with the armor. And yeah, if Ignite had spotlights and we could turn all the lights out, we could make it even better. But, we're on the independent. Sometimes I'm going to have to do that entrance where there's no dark lighting, and it's just going to be just a normal sort of community center light. And how am I going to do it in that way? And you've got to kind of tailor it to that. But it was one of those that I put a lot of work in and a lot of research in, and I wanted it to kind of get that feeling. So the fact that you've said that it's got that feeling for you guys is massively humbling again, and it's proved me right that I can actually do that, and it's another step in the right direction. So now it's going to be about doing it again and again and making it better and seeing what else I can bring to it. Can I add a cape to the armor? Can I make it even more awe-inspiring? Can I get other people involved? What else can I do to just grip people even more?
I mean, I would definitely say that's a career highlight for you. But do you have any others? I mean, we talked at length about the championship. Do you have any other highlights that you want to mention?
I think one of the biggest ones was my first main event match, again with Artemis. Because again, it was a full circle moment. So my first match came at WrestleMania 3 for UBW. The way me and Artemis officially formed as a team at WrestleMania 4, and then we main evented WrestleMania 5. I think it was. Yeah, it was WrestleMania 5. And that was against Charles Crowley and Alexis Falcon, which again was another big test because you look at Charles Crowley and Falcon now working all over the place, progress. They are two of the biggest names in the country without a doubt. And even at that point, it was huge for us to just step in the ring with them. And again, to get the rub from them afterwards and say how much they enjoyed it and they want to do it again was massive. But that was a major, major highlight. The match with Jay Joshua that's just recently gone that you guys would have seen, the match itself is a massive highlight because I feel like I stepped up a bit of a level there. I'd never done that kind of match. I'd never done a real main event on my own where I had to carry my own weight and I had to work with somebody that is so incredibly gifted. And then to come out on top as well as that and give him a bit of a kick in, it was just, it was really cool. It was really, really cool. I'm trying to think what else I've done that was a major highlight. I
mean, for you personally, don't have to be a big moment, but maybe even a small thing to you that you just thought like, oh man, I gotta remember this.
Yeah, there's so many. I remember my first match against Jackson Hart was really cool. We did just a Square One Academy show, and I was booked, but I didn't have an opponent at that point. And I was saying to the guy who promoted it, listen, can I pick an opponent? And I went up to Jackson and I went, are you free? And I was a bad guy and he was the good guy, which at UBW now we've completely flipped that script. And I'm a really over good guy and he's an awful bad guy, obviously barring the shoulder injury, bless him. And at that point we went out and we opened the show and we put on the perfect match. We just didn't miss a beat. And that was the first time we'd worked together. And I was like, it was scary how easy it was. There was no thought process for me in the ring where I was worrying about what was next or, oh, am I going to remember this? What position do I have to be in? It all just flowed so nicely and we just worked together so well. And then we realized afterwards that out of our sort of induction group that we were training together back pre-COVID, we're the only two that are left standing that are working regularly around UBW. You got David Grant, but he's more sort of in the more northern scene now, dips over to Sacrifice now and then, but he's more sort of Nottingham, Northampton based. I say northern, but north than where we're working now, sort of an hour further up. But we're the only two that are kind of left standing. So for us, it's like, yeah, of course we've got good chemistry. We've known each other for like 3-4 years now. Of course, like why wouldn't we? So that was a really cool moment. My first no DQ match when I lost the square one belt. I don't have any shame in losing a note in that square one belt because the amount of hell we put each other through. Me and Leo Edwards just kicking 10 bells out of each other. That was a cool moment. Mainly because I had my mum losing her head in the crowd wanting to stop the match because I started bleeding. And I was like, yeah, fine, I'm all good.
Good job she didn't have any towels.
You might have lost her.
There's so many little moments that I can sort of remember that have put a massive smile on my face. And those are a couple of them, like just, I think another one, which I think Jackson brought up to you, was quite recent in the recent Rumble where he dislocated his shoulder.
I didn't want to bring that up, to be honest.
I still tease him about it as well. But he's got me in the corner and he's like, yeah, I've dislocated my shoulder. And he's pointing at the good shoulder, but he's saying, I've dislocated my shoulder. So I'm thinking he's talking about the one he's pointing at. So whilst he's pointing at this shoulder, I'm going, cool, well, I won't stamp on
that one.
I won't stamp on the other one then, because that's clearly the one you've dislocated. I'll stamp on the one you're not pointing at. So I'm stamping on it and he's going, no, other one, I've dislocated it. And I'm like, you're still pointing at the same shoulder. Cool. Keep stomping. I just put a few more boots in him. And then he's like, he just puts his hand down and just literally covers both up and just goes, no, I've dislocated this one. Stomp that one. I'm like, I'm so sorry. We get out of the back and he's like sort of just out of it, sort of adrenaline up, just trying to hold his arm in place. And I'm trying to apologize. He probably didn't take nothing of it in. But we're still laughing about it. He was in the car the other day when we went to the last UBW show and we're just still laughing with each other, just going, I can't believe I did that. Just because I've got this awful feeling that he'd only slightly dislocated it and those stomps just made it a hell of a lot worse. So I'm hoping that's not the case.
I don't think, because listen to his story when he said it, I think it was in a pretty bad place. So I think you're all right, bro. Because that part was just I have to rotate the bone back down. That was before you, so you're good.
Yeah, I was lying on the floor when he took that choke slam and I saw him come down sideways and I was literally like, that's not good. You know, and I thought he'd gone down and hit his head as he landed. So I was like, is he unconscious? Like, is he okay? I didn't realize the severity that his arm had literally just shattered to pieces at that point and just come out. But yeah, that was awful. He's a trooper, though. I could have easily just thrown him out earlier and me and the other guy, Ricky Calvé, could have just done a final 2 spot. But he was desperate to do that final 3 that we'd planned and to just power through it and to go over the top from my Claymore and get me over. He was desperate to just carry on soldiering through. He's a hero. He's a real hero. And just the nicest guy as well. Even though he's a massive when it comes to his ring work, he is just the nicest guy outside of it. It makes no sense.
Awesome.
No, 100%.
So, there's so many questions at so many different angles, but because you just mentioned it, what inspired you to go for the Claymore as your finish?
I am just a massive mark for Drew McIntyre, to be honest with you. Like, when I started, I loved Drew. It was also it's a move I can hit on anybody. You know, I don't have it. There's always this old expression that the best moves are the ones you can hit on everybody. Because ultimately, if I picked like a tombstone power driver, I've got a match against Bullet this weekend. If I need to hit my finish, how am I going to hit a tombstone power driver on Bullet? Now, I could have multiple finishes. Like I could have something off the top rope, a Claymore, and something else. But for me, I started with the Claymore. I tried doing an elbow drop finish for a long time, and then I messed up my hips to the point where I can't do it anymore. I mean, I got dodgy hips from playing football anyway, so it was a terrible idea for me to start jumping off the top rope. But I went to the elbow drop, which was cool, but I couldn't nail it 100% of the time because I was too worried about landing wrong on my hip and just not being able to walk. So I just went back to the Claymore and was like, let's just make this work. And then I've been working recently on trying to make it look meaner, which I think the last one I hit on Jay Joshua was probably the best one I've ever hit. It looked disgraceful, but he was all safe afterwards, which is the nice thing. But yeah, it all came from just being a massive fan of Drew McIntyre. At one point, I wanted to use the Future Shock DDT as well. And then I was like, I can't take all of this guy's moves. Like, I've got to leave him something.
Do you have a name for it yet? Do you have a name for your version of the Claymore yet?
I was calling it the Conqueror's Kick for a while, but then I'm kind of dropping the nickname of the Conqueror at the minute and moving on to more of the Legion King stuff with the crown. So I don't know what I'm going to do about the name. So I'm going to have to get thinking of one. If you've got any ideas, give us a shout. But I think it's one of those ones where on this scene, even if you name your own moves, a lot of people are just going to go, "Oh, he won with the Claymore." So it's probably just easier to call it a Claymore, like, because for your sort of casual fans that are going to pop up, they're going to recognize it as a Claymore. And the move in itself was created from Drew McIntyre, and that's what he called it. So who am I to call it anything else?
Fair enough, fair enough. But like, yeah, I mean, it's a dangerous game, what you guys do. And obviously you have to be physically prepared at any time. Yeah. What is some of your training regimens that you do to make sure you're in tip-top shape?
It's funny you say that because I'm never really in tip-top shape. That's the worst thing. I'm terrible for working when I'm injured. Like, I won the Ignite belt with a broken metatarsal in my foot. So I did that sort of start of October, and I was like, I've got a big month in October. I think I broke it on the day I faced Murdoch on the 7th of October. I then had Tommy Kyle at Sacrifice the week after. I had another match on the 20th, which I can't remember what it was. And then I had the weekender with United, where I was defending the tag belts in a triple threat tag with Lana Austin, Rob Drake, Charles Crowley, and Alexis Falcon. And then on the Saturday or Sunday, I was facing Bullet and Tate to win the Phantomweight, and then Ignite the week or 2 weeks afterwards. So I was like, where am I going to take time off here? And if I take time off, I'm losing out on all these opportunities. And I felt like I could work on it. I didn't know the severity of what the damage was until after Ignite, but I just had to try. So I ended up getting through it. But for me, sort of training wise, I'm just constantly in the gym. I'll do a stretching routine twice a week at the minute to try and keep my muscles as safe as possible. I had terrible flexibility. I was awful with sort of properly stretching when I was younger. So my flexibility is god awful. So it's something that I'm working to improve on and get that sort of movement to make life a lot easier. I struggled a lot of times through football with knee ligament injuries. So I do a lot of sort of leg work in the gym when I can do. Not strength leg work, because I'm a hater of leg day and I will stand on that hill. I hate it, but I'll do like sort of stuff that will just activate my knees and hips and ankles just to get those joints and movements going. And then I'll focus my full pump on my arms because I've got to leave the gym with an arm pump.
Again, going back onto the tag scene and just looking at it, was that something you pictured? Like, did you ever picture yourself going into that when you first looked at it? Like, going into this whole, Odyssey thing and how great it's been being there. Was that anything you ever pictured? Because some people have always loved tag wrestling. Did you have a love for tag wrestling at all before like entering the game?
So I love tag wrestling. Some of my favorite matches that I've ever seen have been tag matches, and I'll stand on that hill. But I never wanted to be a tag wrestler. Never. I would never thought I'd ever be in a tag team. I never thought that I would be a tag team champion because it was just not something I was interested in. I came into the game wanting to just be me and stand on my own 2 feet. I didn't think that number one, there was going to be anybody that I'd be able to tag with. I sort of looked at, like, when you hear about Edge and Christian and the Hardys and the Dudley Boys, you just hear about all those stories of how they came up and they were training from day one and they knew each other before training and they were all working all the way up. So obviously they were going to be a tag team. I didn't think it was possible because I was coming into this game on my own. So when it happened and we did the first tag match, I immediately switched and I never wanted to do anything other than tag wrestling from that moment onwards. And now I'm playing the 50-50 fiddle, which is great because you get a mix of both. But I fell in love with tag wrestling for me and as a viewer even more from doing that first tag match. But no, I never wanted to do tag wrestling. And I've said this, and I think Artemis was even the same. We never wanted to do tag stuff. And then when it just kind of happened, it was great. And it just worked out so well. But no, I could never have seen myself joining the scene, being a part of all the great tag teams that you've got there now. Never. Would have never thought about it.
Who are some of your inspirations though in the tag team division, man? Like throughout all time?
From all time, FTR, massive for me. I've been a big fan of FTR since their NXT days. I don't know much pre NXT, but from that point, and that was when I sort of started transitioning into wanting to be a wrestler. But childhood wise, the Hardy Boys, Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian, they're the standouts, obviously. I was always a big fan of Eminem. I don't know why. I just really like those two guys. I thought they were great together, and I thought having Melina in the mix of things was great. I never thought they got the rub that they deserved. I thought they were fantastic. But yeah, they were the sort of main lot. I didn't really watch much outside of WWE, so sort of going to sort of that when I was a kid period, those were the sort of main tag teams coming through and sort of around at that point. So, I also have a very strong love for the Rey Mysterio Batista tag team that was there for a little while. I know they held the belt. I can't remember how long it was. It wasn't that long.
It was a transitional kind of hold, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was a couple of months. But did your heart break at the ending?
Yeah, when he starts squeezing his head in, yeah. Good old fun. As a kid, that was traumatizing, but that's kind of the way I imagine my tag team, that I'm the Rey Mysterio and Artemis is the Batista, because I just do all the stupid stuff and she comes in as the enforcer and just throws people around. It's great.
Watch your back then. All right, so again, now for the $1 million question. What are your goals and aspirations for your career in this business?
It's a tough one. I don't want to settle for where I'm at now, and where I'm at now is unbelievable.
It's more than what a lot of people will ever do where you're at now.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm so grateful and I'm so humbled by the opportunities that I get. But my goals and aspirations are to hit the top. And if it doesn't happen, I can sit here and safely say I'm happy with my career and what I've done and what I've achieved. And I don't need to be salty about never hitting the top. But I want to get there. And I think everybody who is in this game wants to get there. You want to get signed. You want to get that point where you can do wrestling as your full-time job and you do nothing else with your time. Mm-hmm. And I think it's great to do it as a hobby, but I'm currently doing it as a hobby as well as doing it as a future career opportunity. And I want to do something that I love for work. So why would it not be this? So, my goals short term would be to sort of make it to the top end of the indie scene sort of over the next couple of years. I want to start working places like Riot and Progress. I think Rev Pro is a massive step up, and I don't know whether that'll be achievable in a couple of years or not. That's, for whoever's in charge to decide, and I've got to try and put some work in and get noticed there. But you look at the show they put on yesterday and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy where I'm at. I'm not sure I'm there yet. So, I'm going to keep working. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. But yeah, my goals and aspirations are to just keep going, keep working, keep improving at all points. I want to get a bit bigger in size. I want to learn a few more moves. I want to be able to bump a little bit cleaner. I want to be able to do crazier stuff off the ropes. But at the same time, just have fun with it whilst I'm doing it, which at the minute I am. There's some times where it's a mental game and it kicks you down when you don't quite get the opportunities that your mates are getting, and you're like, I want to be with you on that parade. Don't get me wrong, it's not easy. It's a mental toughness game that you got to stick through. But at the same time, like I said, I'm happy with what I've got now, and it's only my drive to get better that is making me have those moments of like, oh damn it, I'm not quite there yet. But it's just keep working. I always forget how early I'm into my career, and it comes from, like, I was speaking to Jay Joshua when I was working with him the other week. He's been doing this since 2016. There's some guys that have been doing this for, 8 to 10 years and are just are hitting name value across the whole UK now. And I'm 2.5 years in. So if that's the case, I've still got a lot of time left in me yet. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I have to humble myself and remember where I am and that I'm not, I've not been doing this as long, and it takes a while to build up your reputation. So, but yeah, goals and aspirations, just to keep on fighting, keep on achieving, and hopefully never lose the Ignite Championship, because I don't want it.
That's banging. That's banging.
Would you go abroad? Would you go abroad?
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I'm hoping that there's an opportunity that could pay off this year. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. but there's been initial early talks of maybe floating over to Europe, but I'm not hanging my hat on it because, again, you know, wrestling's one of those games where people talk all the time. And, you know, if it happens, you'll be the first to know because it'll pop up on my socials. But I definitely want to break Europe either this year or next year. Whether going out to America is a lot of a tougher game because of visas and things like that. But I definitely want to do that at some point, even if it's just a tour of the independent scene out there. It's on the agenda for sure. It's not. I don't want to just stay in the UK, if that makes sense. I want to go everywhere.
Well, we're here for it.
You know what? Would love to see it. I'd love to be able to just tune in and see you on the international scene. But while we're talking like being like the Ignite champ and being recognised and going that next step further, and even going back to like the whole costume change and stuff like that. One of the awesome things that shows how far you've got, and if you don't mind, I'm going to bring up this video while I do this, is you got recognised by a couple of guys that we at the ministry absolutely adore. That is good old hitting the turnbuckle. Like you guys have been. Oh, here we go. Like, yeah, the sponsorship deal. How did it feel to be recognized by someone and be like, hey guys, like we'd love to sponsor you. This is the work that you guys do. We love it. How was that moment for you guys of recognition?
Yeah, it was. So the initial talks actually happened after I debuted in September, I believe it was, is when we kind of initially started chatting about. They kind of spoke to me at Ignite, and that's where I sort of met them and introduced each other. And I sort of knew of their stuff anyway beforehand, and they'd already met Artemis. But yeah, to know that they were watching us that intently from even before then was nuts. I was like, this is weird. You guys know who we are, and we only just kind of met. And they're just so great. They're such great people that just want good things for the scene and good things for the industry and just to support us as best they can. So to be one of the 6 or 7 names it is that have been sponsored by them is just nuts. It's insane. You know, I'm happy to represent Hitting the Turnbuckle all the time because, you know, they've already done so much for my career that they didn't need to do. You know, I'm just happy to turn up at Ignite and have a chat with them each time and happy to share their stuff because I'm a fan of their work. I don't need a sponsorship deal to do that. But the fact that they're willing to offer us that and push us even more and tag us in everything and share us to other companies and be like, look, these are our guys. This is who we represent and they represent us. It was nuts. That whole sequence of events of being sponsored by them was just ridiculous because, again, it's like I said, everybody wants to get paid and get sort of acknowledgement for the stuff that you do and not just do this as a hobby. And that for me and Artemis was a massive step in that direction where people are like, we back you to represent us because you're going to bring eyes to our product. When you put it like that, it's just mental. Yeah. It's mental. And, you know, the team that they've got of Corey, LA Taylor, Aluna, Taylor James, us two. I feel like I'm missing another name out, but I'm not sure if I am or not. But even even like signing deals with Progress today, like, you know, we're on the same books. It's mental. It's mental what they're doing and what they're achieving. But yeah, they've just got such an array of talent on their books, and we're a part of that for some reason.
there's no for some reason. Longest reigning UPW champs, current Ignite champ. Like, you know, you guys are doing it, man. And it's good. It's good to see. I loved it. I must admit, not really wanting to fold into it because we didn't even know what we were looking at, but we saw that Hitting the Turnbuckle doing sponsorship, and the first thing Nick, who couldn't make it today, was like, "We need to get Adonis." Like the week after you're signed to them, we're like, "Hey," like we didn't even know what a sponsorship deal even includes, but he's like, "No, we need to get Payne. Whatever the deal is, we need to get him."
I don't know if you can have multiple ones or not. I'd have to speak with them guys, but I don't know how the game works, to be honest. I need to look at my contract.
Yeah, no.
As long as I get one of the cool T-shirts, I'm in.
Hey, don't touch a man like that's on tap. We can make that happen.
We're more than happy to provide a T-shirt, sponsored or not, because, you know, Hitting the Turnbuckle, we love those guys. And again, while we are on that subject, as you mentioned, congratulations, guys, on that Progress link. Nothing but love and respect to you guys for that.
100%.
Right, BigTone, if you don't mind, I've got one other question. We mentioned a certain gentleman's name who you're really grateful for in terms of work, and that's Tommy Kyle. I've
Yeah.
also seen Tommy Kyle win a triple threat recently, so I know that there's a collision course about to take place in Ignite.
Yeah. Tommy Kyle is basically the mastermind as to Harrison Leon, Artemis, a guy called Tony Sin, who I don't think you would have seen, but he was at Ignite in the same match that Harrison Leon won in the breakout semi-final, and he's now gone off to Australia.
Okay.
Tommy Kyle was massively helpful with me in so many ways. When he broke his leg and was out for a while, he was constantly with me in the gym when he was rehabbing, talking wrestling, talking advice. He was at shows all the time, just watching me, giving me feedback. So I don't think I'd be the wrestler I am today without Tommy Kyle. That being said, he's decided he wants to come after my Ignite championship, which is a bit of a kick in the teeth because I thought we were friends. But, you know, it's one of those ones where I'm looking forward to that match because the last one we had, I feel like there was a storyline handcuff on it. This time we can just have a massive fight. We can really go after each other and really leave everything on the table. You know, it's been announced it's the main event. So main event of Full Throttle, you're going to see an absolute war between two people that know each other very well. And I know him really, really well. I know a lot of his flashy moves, his little handspring moves, and I'm going to put a stop to him in a way that I do best, which is just kick him.
Nice.
That's
a promo in itself, man. I was just like, oh, are you excited for the match? That says, yeah, come for the crowd and you're going to get your head kicked off. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, someone's got to wear the crown and I've only just bought mine, so I'm not planning on taking it off anytime soon.
No, wicked, man, wicked. I'm really pumped for that. Like, both of you guys were on that card, our first card, and you've both been at the second show that we've been to. And naturally, it's really fitting that you're both going to be there for the third show as well. Two amazing talents. I know professionally, by gimmick wise, we're not supposed to. You don't want to hear it, but we will be in your corner. Nothing against Tommy, but yeah, I think MOW have confirmed themselves as the heels of Ignite Wrestling. It's just what we do.
I'm hoping everyone's in my corner because people forget that before he broke his leg, he was horrible to everyone at Ignite and everybody just forgot about it. Now, all of a sudden, my attitude's poor. Back, isn't it, really? Like, what's going on?
Wrestling fans are fickle.
Comes back and saves a beatdown on Nino, and all of a sudden he's a hero.
There we go. Well, people do love Nino, and if I'm not mistaken, that Nino's a local boy to good old Boringwood, isn't he? So
yeah,
if you say the local boy, you instantly become a hero.
Ridiculously talented set of brothers as well. Those two.
Yeah.
Well, I say those two. They've got a third brother as well, who, as far as I'm aware, is training and is also very talented. So
cool.
They're just like wrestling prodigies, just firing through. So I wouldn't be surprised if you do see. I think the youngest Brian is training to be a wrestler. I'm certain.
Okay.
Certain.
I'm sure I saw one with them the other day, actually. Yeah, that was like, yeah.
Yeah, because you got Nino and Xander that were in the tag match the last time, and them two are just ridiculous already. Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous. Some of the things they can do and just make it look easy. That Mark True and Nino match, the one that from, I want to say that was November. Was it Mark True and Nino in November?
Mark True took on someone. I can't remember who it was.
I think it was. No, it was Tommy, weren't it? It was September.
Yes, that's it. It was, yeah.
September's show when Tommy initially came back. If you go on the YouTube and watch it, watch Mark True versus Nino. That is just a masterpiece. It did just things in there. You know, I'm trying to plan a match with Remy Adetunji, and I'm like, well, we're not having match of the night because those two are on before us. So what do we want to do here? And in the end, I think we took them pretty close, but without a doubt, those two stole the show. Without a doubt.
Top talents. And it's amazing how they can do both singles and tags, those guys, because you see some fire. I like talking. In the space of a week, we saw both those teams at Ignite, and then we saw them both at Purpose. And both times, you just can't hate on what they do. It's just absolutely insane, you know.
You just have to sit back and enjoy at that point. Even like when you watch sort of True and Lacey yesterday at Rev Pro, they were being the biggest known to man, but you just sat there watching it and you're like, these guys are just so good.
Yeah.
Like, you just can't hate them. You want to hate them because they're doing some awful things like biting and chewing on their noses and whatever else, but it's just innovative, and what they do is just so slick and so cool. Big fans.
Do you know what? Again, I'm just plugging another show. If you do see them on purpose, their faces. Everyone loves True and Lacey over there. That's a good time to cheer them. But yeah,
I faced them really early doors. I want to say December 22, and it was me and Memes. It wasn't Artemis. We did them in a tag match at UKPW, and even back then they were faces there as well. So to see them now doing what they're doing, it doesn't surprise me because they were both incredible back then. And you know, I wasn't that great at that point either, and we ended up having a very good match, which UKPW thought was in like I think it was like one of their top 10 lists. And I came out of that match going, I was pretty poor in that because I did have a bit of a stinker, but it's just them two carrying it. And so for me, it's no surprise to see where they are now.
So shall we get into some quick fire?
Yeah, go for it. Here we go. It's that time now. So excuse me for a second as I change the screen one more time. Okay, it's quick fire time. Hopefully the videos don't throw you off because CJ was like, my God, like, where did you find this? What is this? But yeah, the highlight reel needs to be done at this time. Yeah. Okay, Adonis, are you ready for the questions to find out Adonis Payne beyond the ring? So first of all, we have to go into match you are most proud to have competed in.
Oh, last one against Jay Joshua.
Awesome.
Just
yes. All right. What's your cheat meal?
Cheat meal. Oh, pizzas. I've got one of those uni pizza ovens at home, and my dad does the homemade pizzas. So I had one of those on Saturday after the show.
Nice.
Okay, that's nice. Hobbies outside of the wrestling world.
Ooh, football, gaming on my PS5 at the minute with a few of my mates when I can do, and playing some darts. I've just recently got a darts board in the garage.
Cool. I'm going to spin on that, sadly. I'm going to ask 2 extra questions that I don't normally ask. Football team and what game are you currently playing?
Football team. I'm an Oldham Athletic fan. Unfortunately, we're absolutely god-awful. And game, we're in the National League. Game at the minute, I'm currently just sitting on Fortnite every evening with just my old mates from uni, just sort of chilling out, catching up with them. We don't see each other as often anymore, so that's our little catch-up time, and just I'm absolutely awful at it, and it's not the best game in the world, but it's one of those easy ones we can all play together.
Yeah, jump in and jump out type of deal.
Yeah.
So if you had to skip a day at the gym, you probably already answered this. What day would it be?
legs without a doubt.
Your dream opponent. So your dream match with any current wrestler.
Michael Oku.
Oh.
It was before yesterday, and yesterday strengthened it.
Nice, man. Love to see it. All right, man. Your dream match with any opponent dead or alive.
Oh, Edge or Eddie Guerrero, one of the two. They're the two that I loved growing up the most. So,
okay. Toughest opponent you faced.
Toughest as in work rate or who hit the hardest?
Oh, so hardest. We used to call it stiffest, but I think that's a bit of an ingenuous word. Yeah.
Hardest hitter, I'm gonna say is I think recent is playing bias here, but I'm gonna say Jay Joshua because one of the kicks he gave me literally knocked the wind out of me. But it was one of those where it knocked the wind out of you, and then you're good straight afterwards. It was like, oh, okay. Cool. So I'm going to say that, but that's out of recent bias.
Hey, Jay Joshua's a big guy, man. You're probably very right. All right. Most gifted opponent you ever been in the ring with?
Most gifted. Oh, I'm going to say Charles Crowley. I'm going to say Charles Crowley / Alexis Falcon, actually. One of those two.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you kind of answered this one already as well. Your wrestling idol growing up.
Yeah, Edge and Eddie Guerrero. Just they're the two.
Okay.
You might have answered this already. Your favorite match you watched growing up?
Oh, that's a tough one because I've got one that sticks out as my initial memory, but I think I'm gonna say John Cena versus Umaga from, I think it was the Royal Rumble where they did that I Quit match, and he's tapping him out, or no DQ, and he's got blood all over his face, and he's tapped him out with the corner buckle that he's untied.
That's a big match, you know.
That's a big match. That's actually, you know, it's not so much of an obvious match that people think
it's one that I always go back and watch. I don't know why. I don't know what draws me to it. I think either I'm just a psycho that likes blood, or it's just I just remember watching it for the first time live, and I just always get drawn back to it.
Nice. Excellent choice.
Do you know what? As I'm watching this highlight reel video, I've got to ask you about the gimmick infringement side of Adonis Payne, the side where we've seen you do a bit of a Tommy Kyle impression. We've seen Adonis Dudley. I was like, what is going on? Where did the Joker side come from?
So I did a storyline at Sacrifice Pro Wrestling in Bedford. Great promotion, all charity-based promotion, so all profits go to charity from that show. It's absolutely fantastic, ran by Hustle Malone, who's just incredible. And he gave me an idea when I debuted. He was like, we've got a guy called Kai Payne on our roster. How would you like to lose in a loser loses their name match? And you go from being like an awful heel, and we just take you all the way down to the pits of identity loss, where you are just so sad and so upset, and you start just taking other people's stuff and then build it all the way back up to, you know, winning your name back, and what turned out to be 19 months of a story. So the first few I think I did like John Cena, and then I had like, just for a multi-man, I did like my social media as my name, and then I did The Rock, and I dressed up as Luigi, and me and Artemis did Mario and Luigi for a show when we were doing a tag team gimmick. And then I did the Dudley Boys. But after the Dudley Boys, Tommy Kyle had just broken his ankle, or broken his leg even. He was sat on commentary, and I was facing Harrison Leon for the vacant Ticking Time Bomb Championship, which Tommy Kyle had to vacate. So I had this idea of, what if I just came out and started identity thieving, doing identity theft of people in the locker room, and would the Sacrifice crowd get it? And because we do have quite a regular audience, they got it straight away. As soon as that music hit, and it was like the words of Oasis were going, which is what Tommy uses at Sacrifice, everyone just started shouting for Tommy to get off the comms desk. And then I come out wearing his jacket and his glasses, take the vacant belt off Hustle, and start parading it like I'm the champ. Started messing about, doing his moves terribly. I did them all terribly and failed. And literally every one of my matches was so easy at Sacrifice for a period, because I was just literally failing to do other people's moves, taking a load of bumps, and then I'd hit them in the comeback, and then I'd get beat. It was brilliant. But it was the most fun I've had in wrestling, especially that one. That one always stands out when I did Tommy Kyle, simply because he was on commentary. I think that one, the Dudley Boys one, because the finish to that match is I shout to Artemis, get the tables, and she's looking at me like, it's a tag match. There's no, I crawl under the ring, guerrilla warfare, beat the hell out of her and slam her down twice. I come out from under the ring and go, there's no tables under there, and she's just laid out, knocked out on the floor. They drag me in, beat me up 1, 2, 3, and I'm like, they're all on YouTube. Sacrifice is great. They upload every show onto YouTube. So if you ever want to go back and watch them, they're all split up. It's just,
yeah, they sound like great fun.
It was a long period. It was like 19 months of my career. It's the reason why I've got blonde hair now, because I dyed my hair to do Truman Roswell and dyed my hair ginger. So I had to go blonde to go ginger, and then the temporary ginger faded out. So now I'm stuck as a blonde. So I put for a charity, full effort in. Yeah.
Just following up on that, was Tommy aware that you were going to do him next, or was it a surprise to him as he came out of the spot?
So I asked him permission.
Okay.
I said, do you mind if I borrow your ring jacket and glasses? I think it'd be funny. And he said, yeah. He didn't know I was going to do all of his moveset. He had no idea. I don't know what he was expecting, but all he knew is that I was going to be Tommy Kyle, and I was going to wear his jacket and glasses, and I put him down nicely and kept them all safe. And I think it was his old ring jacket as well, so not even the one that he uses now and stuff like that. And but he had no idea that I was going to go do his moves very terribly, and you hear him on the commentary desk just put the headphones down and walk off laughing. And after I go for the first Nigel lariat and just fail it, he just walks off laughing. And Ollie Spring, who does the progress comms, is also on the booth with him, and they're just wetting themselves laughing the whole thing. And that's what brings me a lot of joy, is that I could make people laugh that way in wrestling, as well as also get terribly booed and get wonderfully cheered at the same time at other promotions. So I had this tale of like where I was being absolutely awful to people at some companies, wonderful at another, and then just playing that comedy gimmick in the middle. Nice. It's just nice to have that mixture.
Awesome. No, I love it.
Great stuff.
Absolutely love it. Wow. Like, guys, I there's not enough that can be said about this gentleman. Adonis Payne is the man, the absolute G. Ignite champ. You've seen that he can do heel, he can do face, he can do in between, and he can do gimmick infringement. It's been an absolute pleasure. So, look, we know Full Throttle's coming out. That's April 21st. You're there. You're defending against the man who you just literally spoke about, Tommy Kyle. You've seen the highlight reels during Beyond the Ring. There is talent here. Do not sleep on him. The ministry were on this guy from match one, and we don't plan on dropping the ball. Like, no, we are huge followers of Adonis Payne, and we encourage you to follow the journey. There's a few shows out there. Some may be more local to you than others, so don't miss out on the chance of seeing this man perform live in the ring and doing what he does. You may have to cheer him, you may have to boo him. It depends on what promotion it is. That's not for me to say. But it's very hard to boo. It's very hard to boo once you see what he can do. But guys, until the next time, I am the one AJ Anthony Jordan.
And I'm BigTone, out the zone. Thank you, Adonis. It's been a pleasure.
No problem at all, guys. Thank you for having me on.
Cheers. We out.
Peace.